All right, so back to this. And like I said, I'll be making one of these after each episode from here on. Right, figure out, no reason not to. Since I'm this early into the season, again, right, might as well take advantage and end up doing that, right? So again, right, this is gonna be on episode 3. It's just released today. I don't believe I have the episode 1 and 2 uploaded yet, but I will get that uploaded tomorrow. Well, not tomorrow, just tonight. Um, but again, the big thing there and what that comes down to in this, right? And for episode 3 is again, it's 3 out of what for season 2, right? I assume it's 12. I guess I don't know. I mean, I do know the manga like continues on, right? But again, it's like 3 out of 12 for the second season. Again, a quarter of the way through, and again, I what I will say, and again, just based on this one, right? Um, right. The big thing I want to say is we're really starting to see the development and progress of, again, not just obviously the relationship between, Yamada and then Ichikawa, right? Not just again what they have going on, right? But more so just their lives in general. Like we're really starting to actually see, the story pick up. Like, I mean, obviously when with the first season you had the whole Ichikawa and Yamada meeting, again his like weird obsession that just got dropped, turning into a normal slice of life thing, right? And then getting closer, but it didn't really go anywhere beyond that. Really, the big thing, if anything, we saw was kind of Ichikawa accept his feelings for Yamada. That was really kind of the one big thing we got out of season 1, I'd say, right? Again, like that's, but we're seeing, and I already talked about this in the previous video, right? Because we got a ton out of episode 1 and 2, in terms of again just again story plot related drives, right? With the again, now what we're seeing out of episode 3, right? In this one particularly, again, obviously it's the whole again, and I will say, so I live in America, right? The US, right? The West, right? So like for us, like Valentine's Day, like we have like grade school parties, but like, it's not that big of a deal outside of that. There's not like, I guess, whatever tradition surrounding it, right? Where it's like a whole Valentine's like white day thing, right? Um but again, the big thing there is it's what Valentine's Day prep for, the show, right? And obviously, we know the whole thing is Yamada invited him over along with her friends, so that again she could prep the chocolate, but also again she gave that piece of chocolate specifically for him, right? And then of course she ate the rest of it, right? But um, again, right? We see that there, and again how she appreciates him coming over. Again, initially there was the whole fling between him and like Yamada's like one friend, the orange haired girl, right? But then he ended up, and he was gonna leave because of it, right? Because it was just such an awkward situation. But again, he eventually came true to himself, right? Again was honest with Yamada's mother, right? And stayed, and then again meeting her father, right? But ultimately her father still knowing that he had her jersey, right? But ultimately thinking he's a cool guy because he plays games, and he forgot to ask for his gamer tag, but whatever, friend code. But again, so we get more insight into Yamada's parents, right? Particularly around other people, especially her dad. This is really the first time we've seen her dad actually interact with anyone, because I completely forgot that we already saw Yamada's mother with Ichikawa's mother, right? But again, and we even saw her at the end of the previous. But this is our first time really seeing their parents interact with, Yamada's friends, to include Ichikawa, right? So again, and obviously, all that, right? And the big thing though, and what we see at the end, right, is again, and this goes to Ichikawa's conversation with his sister, right? In terms of, all right, his, I guess him really, I guess what would you call it? His sister. I guess she was drinking, right? Just blatantly asking him. I mean, because obviously not. It's it's not like he's doing a good job of hiding it at this point, right? His sister knows. Yamada's friends know, right? Again, even that one other, the girl with the ponytail, she like stopped in the middle of them making chocolate and said, "All right, we can't be like doing this, right?" given how Yamada was feeling regarding her friend, like, basically flirting with it, or, like, basically pretending, you know, that they were, oh, Jesus Christ. Oh, I'm tired. I'm going to bed after this. But, completely unrelated. But again, really seeing that there, right? And the big thing that comes down to is, yeah, but again, her just blatantly outright asking, you gonna, like, tell her how you feel, ask her out, right? And then Ichikawa's like, I just don't know, right? Like, chance wise, But ultimately, she kind of brought up a really good point, like, you're only in middle school, right? You're still young and feelings change, right? Who knows? Like, there are billions of, what is it? The verbatim line was there were like billions of women out in the world. But then again, he had to retort and counteract by saying, I'm pretty sure I'll always like her, right? And it kind of, it brought up the point in him of like, oh, for me, I've no doubt I'll always like her, but ultimately she lives in a bigger world than I, and she may not always like me. So again, he kind of had that level of self-awareness and seemingly kind of, again, pushing him towards actually, like, potentially letting her know how he feels, right, given that fact, and since he seemingly kind of accepted. Again, at the end, she was, like, talking about giving the chocolate to the other guys, and he's ultimately like, oh, you don't really need to do that, right, given that he had already received it, again, right, so... But we'll see. Again, and we can kind of go by the episode titles, right? Like, this one's Yamada and Ichikawa. That's literally like the title, or Yamada and I, since it's through his perspective. But again, I will say I am, because here's what I'll say, right? Again, and funny enough, I did go back to the anime and shows playlist and look at the shows that look at the last time I'd watched this, and I think it was like 7 to 8 months ago. And the last video I made was basically on its devolution from a genuinely kind of interesting concept with the whole Ichikawa, serial killer thing to just, normal slice of life. However, that was season 1. What I will say I'm really enjoying about season 2 is, since they kind of committed to the whole slice of life thing, right? The fact that we're actually getting like actual sort of character development, story arc, and plot progression. I'm talking to you, Nagatoro, right? Ilgina Hyde, or whatever it's called. I wish I knew what it was called. I don't even know what its name is, but yeah, like, compared to, like, Nagatoro season 2, which had like none of that, like, we're actually getting, decent, like, story and plot progression, right? We're really seeing their kind of relationship progress, which I guess is kind of similar to, it's kind of similar to the whole, what would you call it, like, well, I mean, spoilers for the Komi Can't Communicate manga, but it's kind of similar to that, where you actually see, like, the development, and it's not just, like, stuck in limbo forever. Even like Tomodachi, like, again, all these other kind of like shows I've already talked about and watched, right? The one outlier is, again, Shikamori, right? Given that it's literally a Mori, but given that they already start out, dating, right? But again, kind of a different story there. But really, again, the big thing, what I'm kind of trying to bring up here, talk about is, I'm glad that we're seeing movement forward. It's not just the same old stuff. There's actual plot progression and story being implemented into the show. Which, again, given that they kind of abandoned the whole serial killer nature, right? I'm at least happy we're seeing that. But with that, I don't really have anything else to say for this one. So, yep, that's it for this one. See you in the next one.